Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence. Welcome back to another video. I hope you're all doing great today. So here we have another fragrance by the company Loumari Paris. I've actually reviewed a few of their fragrances, so I'm going to be leaving a card up here later on in the video, but today's focus is going to be on a fragrance called Noble Cavale. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on this fragrance, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin my review of Noble Cavale by Loumari Paris, and I tell you all about this fragrance, what it smells like, what notes stand out, what kind of a classification I would give it, performance, so on and so forth, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, if you like reviews, top 10 lists, and more, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. Also, make sure to enable all notifications by clicking on the bell icon and give this video a thumbs up if you like this type of content. It would really mean a lot to me and it goes such a long way. So I've actually reviewed a few other of their fragrances, Nuage Noir, I've reviewed Almeria, Saja. I'm gonna leave a card up here later on in the video, right around that 3-minute mark, to either an overview or a list or a standalone review, but I'm also gonna link them down below. So if you are interested in my thoughts on any of their other fragrances, at least of the ones that I've reviewed so far, definitely check it out because I think there's a lot of diversity in this brand, very versatile in terms of the various olfactive profiles that they have chosen to express within their fragrances. And today we're actually focusing on a fragrance that is citrusy, it has lavender, it's spicy, it's a little earthy and mossy in the base, but a little creamy and woodsy at the same time. It goes in a few different directions, but I appreciate the complexity of this fragrance. The perfumer is Amélie Bourgeois. She's done so many fragrances that I'm a big fan of. And here we have one of my latest discoveries, and of course it's by the brand Loumari Paris. They're based out of Paris, France. I'm excited to give you my in-detail thoughts on the smell. Let's start things off with the presentation. So the first thing that you're going to notice in the opening of this fragrance is all of the citrus that's in here. The bergamot, the orange, the grapefruit. It just opens up very bright, very fresh and refreshing. And there's also a bit of a tart quality in there, which lets me know that, okay, there is indeed a little bit of grapefruit happening in the opening of this fragrance. But of course, you also get the bergamot, which gives more of like a nondescript citrus introduction. But I think it's working really well in tandem with the grapefruit to kind of provide you with this citrus cocktail that I think is so refreshing, and especially as soon as you spray it on, it smells very clean, very well groomed, and very professional at the same time. Now, of course, as you give this fragrance a chance to dry down, you are going to get the lavender that starts to peek its head through. Now, lavender is an ingredient that is perfectly unisex, of course. In the case of fougere fragrances, some people might argue that it leans traditionally masculine. I still think this fragrance is totally unisex, and I think some of those anchoring notes in the base have a lot to do with the unisex appeal, namely the sandalwood, which gives a little bit of a creamy vibe, and even the fir balsam that's used in here. Fir can be characteristically masculine as well, but it's also found in a ton of women's perfumes as well. So anyway, not to get sidetracked or anything like that, the lavender in here smells quite natural, but then there's also like a spicy component about this fragrance that I really appreciate. So I do perceive there to be a little bit of cardamom happening in the heart. And the cardamom is just adding this sensual yet clean and professional vibe, while also adding a little bit of an exotic tinge. And so when you think of other cardamom-based scents, whether it be La Nuit de l'Homme by Yves Saint Laurent or any other niche cardamom fragrances, because the YSL is a designer, you see that it has a very specific direction that it tends to guide the fragrance in. And that is a direction of, I think, cleanliness and professionalism. And the same thing is happening here. So I do perceive that the lavender is a little bit stronger than the cardamom. I would say about 70% lavender, 30% cardamom. And so that coupled with that bright citrusy vibe in the opening, you know, continues the elegance and the professionalism. Once you start making your way into the base, I think the fir balsam comes through. So you have those green qualities of the fragrance come through. You also have that sandalwood that's coming through. I know there's also amberwood in this fragrance, and perhaps that's adding a little bit to that sweet vibe, a little bit of which you'll actually get from the sandalwood, because sandalwood gives off this creamy sweet vibe. But I think it's a very well put together, very polished, and very nice sort of path that this fragrance is guided along, where it opens up very fresh and professional in the heart, the professionalism of the lavender and the cardamom. And then in the base, you have a little bit of that creamy, amicable sweetness coming from the sandalwood that is not overdone. And it also doesn't detract or take away from the other professional elements that are found in the top and the heart. I think if you're looking for a really clean, elegant, and well-polished fragrance, this is definitely the fragrance that you should be checking out. In the case of some of their other offerings, of course, Almeria is also really exotic and really elegant smelling. And then, of course, you have Nuage Noir, which has a little bit of like this tobacco vibe. So that one is far darker. And I think that one is going to be super awesome for the colder weather, especially right around this time of the year and as it starts to get even more cold. But I think this one is great all year round. Very professional, very elegant, perfectly unisex. One of the more versatile fragrances that Loumari has to offer, and I think it's a good one. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. Now, first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, I haven't quite smelled a fragrance that smells like this, even though lavender and sandalwood and bergamot are super common notes. I think it's the combination of all of those notes that really lend to the uniqueness of this fragrance, and I really appreciate that. Overall smell is very good. I think it's gonna have a compliment factor, and I think this one is going to be perceived and accepted very positively by those around you. Longevity is a solid 8 hours on my skin. The projection is also really good for the first 2 hours of application. Didn't start to sit closer to the skin until about that 6.5 hour mark. So you are going to get a really nice bubble around you, really nice scent cloud. So the performance is definitely there. No qualms with this fragrance. In terms of the versatility, some people might argue that it leans a little bit masculine. If I were to put a percentage on it, I would say 60% masculine, 40% feminine, but I do find it to be perfectly unisex. At the end of the day, I'm a huge advocate for you wearing what you love, wear what makes you happy, and try not to subscribe to many of the labels out there. But I think this one is great for all year round. I think it has enough of that heaviness with the fir, the sandalwood, and the spicy notes that would make somebody want to wear it in the colder weather, but it has a ton of citrus, which I think works really well in the hotter weather too. I think this one can be worn casually, but then there's also a tinge of professionalism about it as well. And so I would say I'd be more inclined to wear this one dressed up, but I can see somebody enjoying this on a casual scenario as well. And I think this one will cater to anybody of any age. I don't think it pushes the envelope or it's too niche that it can only be worn by a true connoisseur of scent. I think anybody will enjoy this one just the same. And in terms of the presentation, the graphic on the bottle, it just looks beautiful. So my final verdict on this fragrance is, if you are a fan of spicy and citrusy lavender fragrances that are very versatile, you can wear them all year round, might lean a little bit masculine, traditionally speaking, but perfectly unisex at the end of the day, please try Noble Cavale by Loumari Paris. I think this is a solid scent and one that I'm super stoked to have in my collection, and I think this brand is putting out some really great fragrances, and I look forward to seeing what they have planned for release in the future. But in any case, that was my review. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you took something of value from this review. If you did, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. Once again, make sure to enable all notifications by clicking on the bell, and give this video a thumbs up if you like this type of content. Thanks again for watching. Love you all. We'll see you soon. Bye.